The most important forest on Earth is one you will never see. Take a slow breath in, right now, quietly filling your lung. Most of us were taught that the air we breathe comes from great forests. The Amazon, the towering rainforests, the endless green lungs of the planet. It is a beautiful idea. It is also mostly wrong. At least half of every breath you take was made somewhere you have never been, by something you have never seen. It was made in the ocean by a forest with no trees, no roots, and no leaves, drifting silently in the sunlit water. This is the story of the invisible forest that quietly keeps our entire planet alive. Scoop up a single glass of clear seawater and hold it to the light. It looks like nothing at all. But inside that glass drift thousands upon thousands of living things, each far too small for your eye to catch. They are called phytoplankton, from the Greek words meaning wandering plant. Each one is a tiny engine of life, most no bigger than a single cell, some smaller than the wavelength of visible light. They cannot swim against the current, so they simply drift, carried wherever the ocean chooses to take them. And there are almost unimaginably many of them. A single liter of ocean water can hold tens of millions of these creatures. Spread across all the world's seas, they form the largest living forest on Earth, one that covers most of the planet, yet no one has ever walked through it. Among them lives the most abundant photosynthetic organism we have ever found, a bacterium so small it went completely undiscovered until 1980. It is called Prochlorococcus, and scientists estimate there are around 3 octillion of them alive right now, a 3 followed by 2070. This one invisible species may release more oxygen into our world than every rainforest on land combined. To understand why these drifting specks matter so much, we have to follow a single ray of sunlight down into the sea. Like the leaves of a tree, phytoplankton perform photosynthesis. They drink in sunlight and carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. But there are so many of them across such an enormous ocean that their quiet exhalations add up to something staggering. Together, these microscopic drifters produce an estimated half of all the oxygen on Earth. That means roughly every second breath you take was not made by a forest, but by the sea. The oxygen filling your lungs at this very moment may have been released by an organism you would need a microscope even to see. And they have been doing this for an almost incomprehensible span of time. More than 2 billion years ago, their ancient ancestors began flooding the young Earth's air with oxygen for the very first time. Before them, the sky held almost none, and no animal, no human, could ever have breathed here at all. In a very real sense, these tiny creatures wrote the recipe for the air and made the rest of us possible. But phytoplankton do far more than fill the sky with oxygen. They also feed the sea. Almost every living thing in the ocean, directly or indirectly, depends on this drifting forest for its food. Clouds of tiny animals called zooplankton graze upon them, like invisible cattle wandering an invisible pasture. Small fish devour the zooplankton, larger fish devour the small fish, and so the chain climbs upward. Follow it far enough, and you arrive at the largest animal that has ever lived, the blue whale. A creature the size of an aeroplane is sustained, in the end, by organisms far too small to see. Whole nations of seabirds, seals, penguins, and sharks all trace their meals back to the same microscopic source. Where the phytoplankton bloom, life gathers. Where they vanish, the ocean falls silent and empty. And bloom they do, sometimes on a scale so vast it can be seen from space. When conditions are right, they multiply into swirling turquoise spirals hundreds of kilometers across. painting the dark ocean with living color. Satellites high above the Earth watch these blooms ripple and fade like weather made of life itself. There is another hidden gift these creatures give us, one that reaches far beyond the sea. As phytoplankton grow, they pull enormous amounts of carbon dioxide out of the water and the air, locking it away inside their tiny bodies. When they die or are eaten, much of that carbon begins a long, slow journey downward. Scientists call it marine snow, a soft, endless drift of specks sinking into the deep like a snowfall that never stops. Some of that carbon sinks so far into water so cold and dark that it can stay locked away in the deep ocean for centuries. This is the biological carbon pump, one of the most powerful climate machines on the entire planet. Year after year, silently, this invisible forest helps cool the world and hold our climate in balance. Some phytoplankton even build tiny, intricate shells to protect themselves, and those shells tell an astonishing story. Diatoms encase themselves in delicate armor made of glass, sculpted into patterns of impossible beauty. Others, called coccolithophores, wrap themselves in overlapping plates of white chalk. Countless trillions of those chalky shells, sinking over millions of years, turn to stone. The famous white cliffs that line certain coasts were built almost entirely by these microscopic creatures. The invisible forest does not only feed the living, it has quietly helped shape the very rock of our world. And yet, for all its power, this forest is astonishingly delicate. Phytoplankton are exquisitely sensitive to the temperature, the chemistry, and the movements of the sea around them. As the oceans warm and change, scientists have watched some phytoplankton populations begin to shift and thin. And because everything above them depends on them, even a small change at the bottom can ripple all the way to the top. The forest we cannot see is also the forest we most easily forget and the one we can least afford to lose. So the next time you stand by the sea, look out at that endless, empty-looking blue. It is not empty at all. It is the most crowded, most important forest on Earth, breathing out the very air that keeps you alive. Half of every breath from creatures you will never see in a forest without a single tree. Follow worth knowing for more things worth knowing.